What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome on into this quick breaking edition of Sixers Talk Live. Of course, I'm your boy, El Parcero Philly. I want to get this one in real quick because obviously today we had the news of Charles Bassey and Isaiah Joe both being waived. And I want to give my 2 cents because this has brought on a lot of different opinions. And for all of us Sixers fans, I understand how we can overreact from time to time, but there was definitely some overreactions over this move. So these two moves. So definitely want to talk about it real quick before we dive into it. Seriously, thank you so much for tuning on in. Make sure you guys enjoyed today's content to hit that like button, subscribe for more Philly sports, and of course, with that, let's get straight to it. So, obviously, final cuts being made, and the Philadelphia 76ers, we all saw that they got rid of Trevelyan Queen a couple of days ago. Now, Isaiah Joe and Charles Bassey. This comes a little bit of a surprise. These two young Bulls were draft picks of the 2021 draft alongside Tyrese Maxey. And for both these guys, they have definitely shown some promise in these 2 seasons, these two off seasons, I should say. No, this is actually their third off season as a member of the Philadelphia 76ers and in training camp. And, at the end of the day, with the depth that this team now currently has, you have veteran leadership. You still have some of your younger guys who Doc is still going to give an opportunity and a chance to show what they have. But considering the depth that this team did have, before camp, it was already tough enough to think that both Joe and Bassey had a spot on the squad. So right from the jump, I already had a feeling and an inclination that both of them would not make this team. So when this news came out today, I was not surprised. To me, it just showed that, listen, these guys had their opportunity, but we're just not the right situation for both of them. I understand how the Philadelphia fan works. Look, we see a young kid who is someone we drafted, we are developing, we want to see those guys flourish, and it just didn't happen that way. With Isaiah Joe, I get the grief a little bit because I do agree that I don't think that Doc Rivers gave Isaiah Joe a clear opportunity to make this squad. But the one thing I will say is that the real argument is whether or not you believe that Isaiah Joe should have made the team over Jaden Springer, right? So for myself, Isaiah Joe, this was his third training camp, third opportunity to show the Sixers what they had. For Jaden Springer, this is his second, all right? And Jaden Springer still has a lot of raw ability, still has to develop a better offensive game. But what Jaden Springer demonstrated during training camp was that he was a willing defender and that he would make the squad as a defender. We just got done talking about Flyers, Flyers season preview as it is Flyers game day. It is a Flyers season opener. And what do we talk about? One main thing that we talked about was John Tortorella setting the tone and setting the message straight to Owen Tippett that he needs to find his defined role. And that was going to take some time. And for Isaiah Joe, he never found his defined role. Yeah, he should have been a shooter. He should have been one of the sharpshooters coming off the bench. I still would love that for this team. But Isaiah Joe clearly showed that he could not do it at a consistent basis. And that is the reason why he did not make the team and Jaden Springer did. Although Jaden Springer still needs to work on his offensive game, the ability to have an extra defender coming off the bench with some youth and athletic ability is much more, what should I call it? Something that this team just needs more. And quite honestly, it's just something that they need more, especially when you look at the defensive last year. But regardless, we're arguing about the 14th and 15th man on the roster. What are we arguing for? To me, there should be no argument about that. And when it comes to Charles Bassey, look, Charles to me showed a little more promise than Isaiah Joe. He was a little bit more willing as a post defender, back to the rim type of offensive player as well. And so he did show some promise with that. But when you look at the center position, obviously you got the best center in the league in Joel Embiid. Yes, Denver Nation, yes. And then, of course, you have Montrezl Harrell, who is a veteran guy who's going to replace DeAndre Jordan. And obviously, you know that Doc Rivers likes that a little bit better. And then you have Paul Reed, who has shown much more promise than Charles Bassey has. Because Paul Reed, quite honestly, brings a lot more athletic ability. He can run up and down the court, and he can defend guys that are not just a 4 and a 5. He can defend some other forwards and some other guards as well. So the athletic ability definitely is going to help this team. And I think for myself, I want to see more minutes from Paul Reed. I do think, especially in the regular season, Paul Reed should get his fair share of minutes. And come playoff time, I do expect Doc Rivers to use Paul Reed in situational moments as a defender. and someone who can run a small ball and can run up and down the court with a small ball lineup. So that to me, it was a no-brainer. You're gonna obviously, and also another factor is too that PJ Tucker is gonna get some time as that backup number 5. So as one of those backup number 5, again, I'm talking about the small ball lineup that you kind of want to run. PJ Tucker can run that, and we just mentioned Paul Reed can run that as well. But you kind of want your best players out there at all times, and Paul Reed is still going to develop his offense game. That's one thing I want to look for. Is how he continues developing his offense game. Just from preseason, it does look like he got a little bit bigger, so that's always good to see. But need to see some more offense from Paul Reed. But at the end of the day, look, we would all want the Sixers to play a lot more of their younger players, and I completely understand that. But the fact of the matter is, we have to understand the circumstances. Doc Rivers is the coach for right now, and I know it sucks, but it is what it is. And at the end of the day, Doc Rivers just doesn't trust young kids. He does not want to play young kids despite what he may be saying. But at the end of the day, Doc, when you have DeAndre Jordan looking like an absolute hot mess, dude literally forgot how to play basketball, and you're not putting in Paul Reed, who's shown you a little bit more than a DeAndre Jordan, that's the type of stuff that pisses us off, quite frankly. I do understand why you play veteran players, especially in playoff moments, but at the end of the day, it's about who helps your team at the moment and the matchup. DeAndre Jordan is not keeping up with Bam Adebayo. DeAndre Jordan is not keeping up with the Chris Bouchers or the Pascal Siakams. Paul Reed had a better opportunity as well. And the other argument I heard too, especially by Isaiah Joe, is why is Isaiah Joe making the team over? Why is Furkan Korkmaz and Shake Milton making the team over Isaiah Joe? And to that, it goes back to what Doc Rivers' belief is that the veteran players with experience, especially playoff experience, is much more valuable than a young player who has promise. At the end of the day, promise doesn't win you basketball games. Experience and heart does. Now, although Furkan Korkmaz and Shake Milton have been the definition of inconsistent for both those guys, they've had some playoff experience. They have familiarity with Doc Rivers, and to that, that's why they're going to make this team. Look, I know we all hate Furkan Korkmaz, and Furkan Korkmaz is extremely frustrating because there are moments where you're thinking to yourself, Furkan Korkmaz can absolutely be a difference maker, especially coming off the bench. But he has been way too inconsistent. And again, I'm keeping Furkan Korkmaz over Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe has shown me nothing, just promise. Furkan Korkmaz at least has shown up in games. Even in playoff games, he has shown up. Just not every game he has shown up. That's the frustrating part about him, the inconsistency. So I'll take that over Isaiah Joe. At the end of the day, the point of all this is that we are trying to win an NBA championship. This team that is currently constructed is the best iteration of the Sixers team since Joel Embiid has been here. What are we trying to do? What are we arguing for? We're arguing for the 14th and 15th spots on the roster? I don't understand how that helps us. At the end of the day, this team is a much deeper team with veteran experience and are extremely, extremely hungry. It's been long enough. And the pressure is on Doc Rivers mostly, right? If he doesn't get this right and his lineups and his rotation doesn't work out, he's the one that will be paying in the end. So that's going to do it for this quick Sixers Talk Live. Just wanted to give my thoughts on the Bassey and Joe cuts because obviously it is a big deal. They're young players, and we want to continue seeing young players like Tyrese Maxey flourish on this team, but it's not always going to pan out that way. So in the comments, guys, I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts on the moves here today with Bassey and Maxey. Imagine if we get rid of Maxey, you guys have a conundrum. If with Bassey and Joe being cut here today, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Hit that like button, subscribe for more. We'll have some more Philly sports videos coming up as well. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, I go by the name Parcero Philly, and I'm telling you guys, let's go Sixers.